Their topic is contacting and inviting people to get them to meetings, and I don't know other person that can do a better job than that than a diamond direct distributor couple from Roswell, Georgia, Jim and Kathy Paullin.
Everybody excited? You've had some tremendous motivational speeches. You've had some exciting new diamond stories. And we get to give you some information that we would love to share with you, and that is how to contact and invite people. You're going to want to take some notes, and I'd like for you on this beautiful Free Enterprise Day, and in a way in which we can continue to spread free enterprise, give your utmost attention as she shares some ideas with you on this subject to my wife, Kathy.
Thank you. Wow, we're excited to be able to speak to you. This is a real privilege and an honor. We're turned on. Contacting is so important because it's something you're going to be doing from now on, the whole time you're in the business, and you're going to want to get good at it because you're going to not only be doing it, but you're going to be teaching it to every new person you sponsor. And we always want to really learn the most we can about this subject. And Jim and I have learned a lot about it, and we're still learning. We're talking to the Diamonds backstage about what they think is important about this subject because they've got experiences that we haven't had. When Jim and I sponsor a new couple and we sit them down and they make out their list and we're telling them how to invite, we'd like to recommend that the husband do the calling, do the inviting. And there's a couple reasons for this. And the main one is there's going to be more probability that if the man does the calling, that the people are going to come. And this is because a man has more credibility in most cases when they're talking about business, and there's going to be less likelihood that the people are going to sit there and think this is a rinky-dink, nickel-and-dime type of thing, which of course it isn't. So we recommend in most cases that the man do it. But I also have to tell you that we have couples in our business where, because of their circumstances, the wife has had to do almost all of the inviting and contacting, and those couples are direct distributors. So I say be flexible, and each situation is different, and nothing works for everybody the same all the time. You may have people on your list also that the husband does not know at all, and the wife is going to wonder whether she should call them. And what we recommend there is for her to ask her husband, look, honey, do you want me to call these people or do you want to call them? Now, in our case, Jim would probably still call them and introduce himself as my husband and go ahead and do the inviting himself because he likes to do that. I want to say one real important thing on this subject to the women. And just in case you haven't heard this before, this is something that I had to learn, and that is don't keep bugging your husband about who he's going to call, when he's going to call him, and why he hasn't called him. I would say to Jim, honey, have you called Fred yet? You know, if you don't call him, John's going to get him. And that was a real bad thing because that puts a lot of pressure on a man. And in this business, a man puts a lot of pressure on himself, and he doesn't need his wife bugging him about making contacts or calling people or anything else because he's going to put the pressure on himself, and that's the only pressure he really needs, and that's the only pressure that's going to work. And your pressure is going to do just the opposite. I found out that I could be in the kitchen doing something, and Jim might have been psyching himself up for a half hour to call a couple, and he got all ready to do it, and he would walk through the kitchen on his way to the phone. And I had no idea what he was thinking, and I'd say, now, honey, don't forget to call John tonight. And I could just see him tense up, and he would get mad, and he would walk out of the room. And there was no way he would call John, even though he was just ready to do it because I had said to call John. And it might be weeks, it might be even months before he would call John just because I had asked him to. He wanted it to be his idea. And once I realized that, I learned real quick to let him, whoever he was going to call, he'd call, and I'd just keep out of it. Now, some men are more sensitive to others in this area, and your husband might really like to have you remind him about who he needs to call. But if you're a woman, you need to find out what's best for your husband, and that all comes down to communication, and that's where it all starts. in the area of cold contacting, of meeting people that you don't know and making a friend out of them and getting them to come and see the plan, this is a whole other area, and Jim's going to cover this too. But in our situation, I don't do a lot of that myself, because Jim has always been a lot more outgoing than me, and he's been better at meeting people, and he has made himself learn to be good in this area from the very beginning, to where he was always meeting people, and we had a long list all the time because he was adding to it every day just because he was out, and he would talk to anybody, and it would really it would be hard for me to talk to people, so he never pushed me into it. But your situation might be different. You might be, if you're a woman, you might be just fantastic at meeting people. You might have the kind of personality that you can just speak to anybody and make a friend real quick, and it's no problem for you. And let's face it, all of us women see people every day that our husbands will never cross paths with. And if we don't say something to them or approach them, there's no chance we'll ever sponsor them, because our husband will never see that person. So that's just something that you really have to think about, which makes it worthwhile for us all to become good at meeting people. And I really feel like there's a lot of vivacious and bubbly women out there that are like Effie Reed or Sherry Meadows and just love to talk to people. And I feel like that some of you might be holding yourself back because you're hung up on your role in the business, and you've heard people talk about what you should do and what your husband should do, and you think, well, I should do the paperwork and the products, and my husband should get the prospects and draw the circles, and that's what I'm going to do. Well, I say that's just a waste of good talent, and I'd like to see us all start communicating, husbands and wives, about what we're good at and get rid of our egos and take advantage of all our good points and not be waiting around for somebody else to do something when we're perfectly capable of doing it. So, yeah, right. So if you men kind of think, well, my wife's trying to get into my area in this and it hurts your ego, well, just think twice about how much faster you could grow if she's doing something that she's really good at and it's helping your business grow. Just pull your ego in a little bit and if you can, let her go to it if she's good at it. Take advantage of everything you can take advantage of. Do you think that after you sponsor somebody and they go direct and that 3% money is rolling in, that you're going to worry about who actually approached that person? I don't think so. But really, it all comes down to, and talking to the women, do in the business whatever your husband wants you to do, and get together with him and find out what he's comfortable with and what you're comfortable with, and so that you'll know. And if he says, great, honey, go out and get me some names, I'd like to have a twice as long a list as I already have, then I'll just give you a little bit of an example of what you can do when you meet a really hot prospect. If I go out shopping and I see somebody that really looks good to me and I get into a conversation with him and he looks like somebody that I think Jim would really want to sponsor if he were there, then I'll just wait until I'm ready to leave. If I'm in a store ready to walk out and go, and I'll say, you really impress me. I really like your attitude, or whatever impressed me about him. You're smiling, you seem to handle people well, and make it sincere. And then I'll say, my husband has his own business, and he's looking for somebody right now to help him expand. And I don't know if you'd be interested or even if you would qualify, but if you'd like, I'll give him your name and number, and I'll have him give you a call. And while the fellow is writing his name and number down, I'll pull out one of Jim's cards, and I'll say, he gets really busy sometimes, and if perhaps you don't get a call from him, you feel free to call him, and I'll hand him Jim's card. And you'd be surprised the number of calls we get before Jim even has a chance to call that person. It really works. And I want you to notice something about that. I didn't say my husband and I have a business or my husband and I are in a business, because if I put myself into it, there's a very good likelihood that they're going to say, is this Amway? Because there aren't too many husband and wife businesses. And so I just say my husband has his own business. Plus, if I keep myself out of it, then I can act real dumb if they start to ask questions. And if they say, well, what kind of business does he have? I say, well, golly, I just couldn't explain it. There's a lot of different facets to it, and I don't really have any idea of what he would have in mind for you. You just have to talk to him. And they accept that from a woman. They'll accept the fact that you really couldn't explain it. And it's so easy. It's just so much easier than a man has to get himself out of explaining it. I just say, you know, all I know is there's a potential for making a lot of money, and I'll put in a good word for you. And then I get out of there real fast before they ask me anything else. And the only other thing I want to say is that when you make diamond, and when your husband tells you, and this is something that's just excited me recently, when your husband tells you that you can spend $2,000 and go off for a whole week to a spa and just luxuriate for a week by yourself with no responsibilities and lay around and exercise and get massages and manicures and pedicures and just have a ball and get rejuvenated and revitalized, and you know that you can afford to do that because of this business, you're not going to worry about whether you made all the contacts, sold all the products, and did everything that it took, or whether all you had to do was keep your big fat mouth shut and wait and let your husband grow so that he could do what he wanted to do, because it won't matter, because it's worth it, and you're there. And we want you all to be there, and the person that's going to help you the most is my best contact, Jim. Here's Jim.
How many of you want to be diamond? Do you realize that all you really have to do is make at least 6 good contacts? At least 6 good contacts for 6 good directs, right? All we're really looking for is 6 good people. And this is a skill that you want to develop. You want to become a professional at it. You want to be real good at it. You want to be efficient at it and proficient. It's something that you need to practice on a constant basis. And what I want to tell you this afternoon is, if you've got an invitation and an approach that's working for you, don't change what you're doing. Keep doing it. Don't change what you're doing. All I want to do is share with you some guidelines and some ideas. I'm not going to give you a canned approach. I'm not going to give you something that you're going to have to try to be somebody else and you have to memorize some spiel. I'm going to share with you some ideas, and you take what you'd like and work on it until you get good at it. And then you too can be a diamond, because that's all we did was get better and better, and we're still getting better at contacting and inviting people. Actually, I feel like there's 2 categories here of people that we talk to. The first category are our friends, our family, the relatives, and close associates at work in your job, business, or profession. And then the second category, of course, is that category that's unlimited, and that's making new contacts to people that are now strangers. And we'll get into both of these. First off, the first category, I would suggest to you that one of the most important things that you can do is to make a list of all the people you know. Now, I know you've heard that. How many of you have a list? How many of you have 100 names on the list? How many of you have 150 names on the list? The names are getting thin. The hands are getting thin. What's happening? You know at least 250 people. Suppose that I said, between now and tomorrow afternoon, everybody that put down a name and phone number, I'll give you $10 for every name and number you come up with. Could you come up with a pretty good list? Sure you could. But don't you know that that list is going to be worth far more to you than an average of $10 per name? We're talking about unlimited income potential. So let's work on the list. Now, the categories that you can put the list in is 3. Number 1, local. Local people live in your area. Number 2 would be out of town, people that you know from other cities and other states. And I would suggest to you that there's a tape that was done in Kansas City on long-distance sponsoring that you might want to find out more about long-distance sponsoring. And also, number 3, do not forget to put down contacts that you have in foreign countries. It's a tremendous opportunity when you can build a business on a worldwide basis, as we've been able to do, and you will too. And you can get advice from your upline on foreign contacts. Now, who are you really looking for? Who are you really looking for to show this plan to? You know, a lot of us try to prejudge, don't we? And I guess if you had to prejudge, you know, you would look for people that want more out of life. You would look for people that are dreamers. You would look for people that aren't totally satisfied where they are and they want to move on. You look for people that are aggressive and they want to go somewhere and do something with their life and have more security for their families. You've heard the phrase before, sponsor up. I would like to make sure that we understand what that really means. That doesn't necessarily mean to sponsor somebody that earns more income than you do. That does not necessarily mean to sponsor somebody that has more education than you. That doesn't mean that you sponsor somebody that you think happens to be sharper than you. What that means is sponsor somebody that's as ambitious as you are. Sponsor up in terms of ambition level. In other words, a lot of us wouldn't even be here today if somebody was sponsoring up. They might not have got us if the definition was anything other than ambition level. If they were looking to see if we made a bunch of money or if we were successful at something else, I might not have qualified. So it's important that we don't rule people out. All we're looking for is people that want to get ahead and have some ambition. It's very, very important. Now, there's some memory joggers here on who you can put on your list. And I hope you've thought of these. And if you haven't, maybe this will kind of stimulate your thinking a little bit. People from the place of worship where you go. How about people that are in your address book? Maybe you haven't even gone through there and checked those off. How about your Christmas card list? How about your school yearbooks? How about occupational headings in the yellow pages that'll stimulate your memory in terms of people you know? One of my favorite is to take the ammogram, open it up to the new voting member direct distributors in the back, and flip through reading off the occupations. Who do you know that's a plumber? Who do you know that's a veterinarian? Who do you know that's a pilot? Who do you know that owns his own business? And so forth and so on. And I like to do that with the new distributor and sit down and do that so they know who to invite. And continue to add to your list. Don't ever stop adding to your list. Now, one thing that I want to really highlight to you is please do not wait to show this plan to your best prospects until you're successful. Do not wait to show this plan to your best prospects after you're successful. Because if you do that, you probably won't be successful. It's more important that you go to those best prospects, in your opinion, that are ambitious and dreamers and people that want to get ahead as soon as you can. Because when you're just now getting started, don't feel like you don't have the credibility because you don't have a tremendous success in the business. You've got plenty of credibility to use. You've seen it here this weekend. You've got profiles of success to use. You've got everything possible you could think of. The success of Dexter and Bertie Yeager, the success of your upline diamonds and pearls and emeralds. And you've got plenty of success to build the business on, but you don't want to wait to show your best prospects, because when they look at you and you're just getting started, that's good enough reason for them to know that you're not successful yet. You're just getting started. And so now's the time to show them the plan. Get started immediately. Don't wait. Now, what's the real objective of the invitation? What are we really trying to accomplish? Well, it's twofold. One, we're really trying to arouse curiosity, aren't we? We're trying to get them interested in what we've got. And two, we're really only trying to get the appointment. We're not trying to sell them on the plan. We're not trying to get them into the business. We're just trying to get the appointment. Now, it's very vital that we realize we must separate getting the appointment from showing them the plan. All too often as new distributors, we try to go ahead and explain the plan. Well, it's just a little this, it's a little that, and pretty soon you failed to get the appointment totally, and they never did get to see the whole story. So all we're really doing is arousing curiosity, number one, and trying to get the appointment. Set the appointment. That's all we really want to do. Now, that means to avoid explaining bits and pieces. If I had a beautiful Rembrandt painting up here and I had it totally covered up and just exposed simply the corner, that certainly isn't going to show the beauty of the painting. And likewise, if you just expose a bit of this business on the telephone when you're trying to get the appointment, there's no way they can understand the beauty of the business. So it's very, very vital that we just arouse their curiosity. Let me ask you a question. How many of you in here went to see the business and you absolutely didn't know 100% certain that you were going to see the Amway business? Can we see the hands? It's an overwhelming majority, isn't it? Does that tell you anything? The curiosity approach still works, doesn't it? And remember, now I'll tell you, this is your business and you can do whatever you want to do, but I'm just going to tell you what works, because I have an obligation to do that. And that's very important that we just simply get the appointment and use the curiosity. Always, at all times, have set up at least 2 or more meetings, at least 2 or more dates that you're going to have the plan presented. Either you're doing it, or your upline's doing it, or you're going to an open meeting, at least 2 dates in mind or more whenever you invite somebody. That way, you're not trying to flounder if you can't get them to one particular date. Now, I want to give you some guidelines, and I would suggest to you that you want to follow and stick to the guidelines of the Amway Manifesto at all times. If you're not familiar with that, your upline can explain it to you. I want to say this. Don't try to be somebody else. Don't try to imitate anybody else's invitation. Be yourself. Be yourself. Don't be out of character. The minute you're out of character trying to invite somebody, they become highly suspicious of what's going on. Just be yourself. It's no big deal. Use your own words. Use your own personality. I would suggest to you that you might want to name your business. If you definitely go ahead and get a name for your business, and you can offer that to them ahead of time, they're not going to be as likely to ask you, what is this? You've already told them. And you might even perhaps use the name of your Upline Diamonds business as the business that you use for your name. That's perfectly all right. Now, and you know, if you get the question, what is it? Well, you can say it's G&D Development out of Nashville, Tennessee. Have you heard of that? A lot of people will say, yes, they have. And it'll blow your mind. But, you know, go ahead and have a name for your business. I would suggest this to you. Keep it simple. Your invitation and your business name. Keep it simple. Be excited, be enthusiastic, and be proud of what you got, but be relaxed with it, and just be totally you. Your attitude that you project to the people is what's going to get them there. It's your attitude. You know, you've got something to offer to them, and that's important. I project that in the sound of my voice. You know, I've got it. I know something you need to know type of attitude. And they'll want to know. You get them curious. One thing is stay in control of the conversation. Keep control of the conversation. We were out at, Dexter calls it his farm, Youre Estates here just this past week. And a bunch of us, well, Dexter and Bert Gulick and Jim Kinsler and I started playing with a basketball out there. And we were playing keep away from one another. And, you know, the person who had control of the ball was the one that had control of the game, right? And you see, what was happening was, you know, Dexter's really low, and he's going around, and I'm trying to get the ball from him, and then he'd throw it over to Jim Kinsler, and, of course, he's a professional type, almost basketball player in his background and coach and everything, and he'd hold the ball out there on his hand like this, you know, like, come on, try to get it. Come on, try to get it. But I try to go get it, and he'd pull it back, throw it over my head. And that's about the way you want to treat the business. You know, you kind of hold it out there, and you get them interested in it, and they come for it, you pull back a little bit. Instead of what some of us do when we're brand new, we go throwing the ball at them, you know. We're going to come get you. And don't chase people. You know, keep them hungry for what you got. Take it away. And a little later on, we were joined by Bob Stouffer and Eduardo Ventura, and we were playing some basketball. And the one thing I noticed was there's no way that you can even have a score if you don't have control of the ball. You can't even shoot, let alone score, if you don't have control of the ball. And this business is the same way. I might add that we ended up in a tie score. We had to go back into the diamond meeting. But at any rate, this business, in the conversation, you keep control of the conversation at all times. And that way, you can get the invitation accomplished, and you can get the appointment, and you can get the plan in front of people. But, you know, you got to remember, each time we shoot, we don't score. Each time we invite, we don't necessarily get somebody there. Each contact we make, we don't necessarily get somebody that we can invite. But what do? We keep shooting. We keep control, and we keep on keeping on. We don't stop just because we missed a shot. And the invitation is just exactly the same way. You won't score each time you invite somebody, but don't stop inviting people and don't stop meeting people. Remember, you've got the ball. You've got the ball. And that's exciting. You know, Bert says you've got the cookie. You've heard him say that, haven't you? Well, you've got it. How do you improve at basketball? You practice, right? How do you improve yourself at inviting people? You practice, right? The same thing. Constantly. Practice. Now, when I'm talking to people, I'm always very independent. I don't beg people. I don't trick people. I don't mislead people. I don't chase people. And I don't do this. I don't invite people over for dinner and then spring a business on them. I don't invite people over for a party and then spring a business on them. I don't invite people over to hear about an investment club and spring a business on them. I don't tell people I've got a tax shelter. We don't have that. You know, there's a lot of things. I don't imply that I've got a salaried position for them. You know, I don't act like I've got something so important I got to get with them that they might think it's, you know, some kind of a personal family problem or something like that when they're coming. I don't want to mislead people, or I don't want to be deceitful in any way, because we want to keep an utmost, foremost, vital image in this business and throughout the whole country and around the world with what we do. We've got so many people's futures in our hands. It's very, very important. Now, why don't I mention Amway products or selling when I invite somebody? Somebody might say, well, why, that doesn't make sense. Why aren't you proud of it? I am proud of it. But there's a couple things. Number one, even on the application that you signed when you came into this business, it says right on there that you're not an Amway employee. And it even goes on to expound in other representations that you're not related to Amway in that respect. Also, we handle a multitude of other products, name brand items. Everything from Samsonite luggage to McCulloch chainsaws, you name it. We got microwave ovens, Carter's clothes for kids, Bulova watches, Seiko watches. So I don't want them thinking just, Amway brand products. I'll be deceiving them if I do that and just give them the name Amway. Also, in addition to that, I don't want them to have any preconceived notions whatsoever. I'll give you an example. 1 year before we came into this business, I was approached about the business in the following manner. I was teaching at Georgia State University at night, part-time, and a student came up to me after class one night, and he said, Mr. Paullin, I've got a business I think you might be interested in. And I said, great, I've been looking for my own business for 3 years. And I said, what is it? You ever heard that question? Guess what he told me? Amway. I said, Amway, what's that? And he started to explain it to me. We got some products, and we got commercial products and household. And I immediately tuned him out, turned off, and decided I wasn't interested. You know, me, do that? I wasn't interested. Well, I got news for you. A year later, when I got invited to hear about the business and wasn't told it was Amway, I went. And the guy that sponsored me, he knew what to do because he had listened to his upline on the approach. But the former guy, a year earlier, he don't get no 3% or any other bonuses off of our business, does he? So you can do whatever you want to do, but I'm just telling you what works. Okay? It's very important. And you see, what we're really doing, a lot of times when we get started in a business, we wonder, well, are we taking advantage of our friends trying to get them over for us? No, you're not. Let me tell you exactly what you're doing when you're inviting somebody to see this plan. You're offering them an opportunity whereby they can develop a direct distributorship with earning potential of upwards of $1,500, $2,000 a month with unlimited earning power in order that you might get at least $400 a month. Now, who's getting the better end of the deal? You see, it's important that you put it in a proper perspective. When you sponsor somebody, you're going to go to work for him. He's not going to work for you, and you're offering him the opportunity. What I really want to try to do is get them to see the whole story. That's my whole objective in the invitation. If somebody's giving me a hard time about it, what is this and all that kind of stuff, I'll say, look, you're an intelligent person. And obviously, an intelligent person would want to get all the facts so he could make an intelligent decision first. Would Tuesday night or Thursday night be better? What can he say? What can he say? He's going to want to get together. Now, I learned very quickly in our business not to prejudge people. And I'll tell you, it was by accident. I was getting an annual physical at the doctor's office, and I kind of stumbled across an approach. He asked me how my work was doing and everything, and I said, well, my job's okay, but I got something so much better going on that I'm really more excited about it. And he said, what's that? And I said, well, you wouldn't be interested, being a doctor and all. That was before I understood the potential of the business, but I just kind of stumbled on a beautiful approach because he said, oh, yes, I would. We got $8,000 a month fixed overhead here, and we got a home that doesn't have furniture in it, still paying back medical school loans, da-da-da-da-da-da. And I said, well, maybe you would be interested. And so sure enough, we invited him over, and on Sunday afternoon, he came over, and when the doorbell rang and I went, and there he was, I just couldn't believe it. And, I was just kind of getting started, but I was so excited that he was there. But he didn't bring his wife. And I learned another very important lesson. If at all possible, any way, shape, or form, be sure to show it to both the husband and the wife at the same time. Because he got so excited that afternoon, he was ready to do it, turned on, went home, and his wife took it away from him. And I learned my first lesson about not prejudging and also showing it to the husband and the wife at the same time. Very, very vital. Now, I also suggest to you that you might want to quickly invite the people that know one another. In other words, your neighbors, your relatives, people that know one another. The minute you show it to any one or two of them, guess what happens? The word travels, doesn't it? The word travels fast. And so what we want to do is give them the opportunity to get the whole story so that they can make their own choice. Do they want to be a distributor or do they want to be a customer? Well, let's give them that opportunity so we can show it to them and let them decide for themselves. Now, with close friends, with very close friends and with relatives, I suggest that you can be very brief with them, and you don't have to give them a whole lot of information. And just to give you an idea, one of the approaches that you might consider is, number one, if you're on the telephone or if you're doing it in person, my rule of thumb is be in a hurry, be brief. Don't set yourself up with somebody you're going to be working with all day long after you've talked to them in the morning. You're going to be bombarded with questions all day long. Don't set yourself up to where you're going to be on a phone conversation for an hour and ask them to come over at the beginning of the phone conversation. You're going to have a problem trying to not explain the business on the phone. What I suggest to you, what I do is I'll call up and say, "Hey, John, I just wanted to give you a quick call. We're on the way out the door, but I thought of you. I wanted to see if you and Mary are busy Thursday night." Now, what am I doing? I'm clearing the night first to see if he's available. This is somebody I know really good now, okay? I'm trying to see if he's available before I'm going to invite him. I don't like to get shot down. I don't like somebody telling me they're not available after I invite them, so I'm not going to invite him until I know he's available. Maybe that's backwards, but, I kind of find it works that way. And so he says, "Well, no, we're not doing anything Thursday night, or if he is, I'll find another night. What are you doing Saturday night?" And finally, when we found a night that he's available and his wife, I'll say, "I've got an exciting idea that could mean some big money to both of us." And, he's already kind of getting curious now, right? He's interested. And I didn't quote a figure or anything. I always say big money, and they can put their own figure on it. Sometimes you quote a figure, you might be too low, you might be too high. So I just say big money, and he puts his own definition on that. And then the next thing I know is I say, "Well, look, I may be able to get you in on it. Is there any reason why you and Mary couldn't come over Thursday night about 8 o'clock, and we'll have a cup of coffee and go over everything?" Now, what's he going to do at this point? He's going to ask me questions, probably, maybe not. Sometimes he doesn't. But I want to tell you, one of the simplest, most honest, straightforward answers that you could give to anybody on any question, and that's what I want to do, is keep it simple for you, is it's too involved to go into on the phone right now. It's too involved to go into on the phone right now. That's no matter what he asks you, you could say that. And then what? Repeat the question. Is there any reason why you and Mary couldn't come over Thursday night about 8 o'clock and we'll have a cup of coffee and go into it? It's simple. Isn't it simple? And then he's going to, and he might say, "Well, look, you got to tell me what it is or I'm not coming." And I'll come back with something like this. "Well, don't you trust me? Is there any reason why you guys couldn't come over Thursday night? You can trust me." Get right down to it. Keep it simple. And then get a firm commitment. If he says, "I'm going to try to come," he just politely said he probably won't be there. And when you learn that ahead of time, you can come back and say, "Well, look, I need to know for sure if you guys can come over, because if you can't, I got somebody else I need to talk to. And if something comes up, be sure to let me know at least a couple days ahead of time. Or maybe you're inviting him for tomorrow night. Let's plan on it. You're good at keeping appointments, aren't you? And make him know that you're definitely planning on this thing. It's serious. He'll treat it as important as you treat it. And if you act like, "Well, we'll just get together any old time," well, then it's just not too important either. If you call to go to the dentist to make an appointment and he says, "Come by any old time," what do you think about how good a dentist he is? You kind of wonder, wouldn't you? So the point is, make your time valuable, get firm commitments. Here's another idea you might be interested in thinking about. You might be talking to a friend and say, "Look, are you familiar with G&D Development out of Nashville?" He says, "Well, yes or no," right? Either way you go. He says, "Well, they're expanding their business into the Atlanta area and looking for a couple of key people that would like to be their own boss. I don't know if you'd be interested or not, but I've got an opportunity to take one couple along with me next Tuesday night. Would you like to go?" And, you just kind of keep it simple. And he won't ask you what it is probably, because you already gave him the name of the company. And it's important that you just kind of remember that. Now, always, no matter what somebody says to you, you can always get referrals, names of people that they know. Let me give you an example. I had a referral from my insurance man who I talked to about the business, and he wasn't interested in it after I showed it to him. But he gave me the name of another person who had his own business. And the other person had his own business. I went and talked to him, and he gave me the name of yet a third person, because I asked him, "Well, who do you know that'd be interested?" And as a matter of fact, he picked up the phone and dialed the number, and he says, "Here's Bill, talk to him." And so I got on the phone with Bill, and we set up an appointment for the next night. And he asked me what it was all about, and I said it'd be too involved to go into on the telephone. I don't know you, you don't know me. We need to get together and have you and your wife come over. We'll get to know each other better, and if things work out and we hit it off good, we can talk business. It's kind of like, maybe I will, maybe I won't show you what I'm doing. You got to kind of qualify, right? That's your attitude. And the next morning, he called me. I think it was about 9:30 on a weekday morning, and we were still sound asleep, and we were full-time in the business. And the minute he told me his name, I realized that he wasn't calling to confirm the appointment, right? And he said, look, we're not going to be able to make it over there tonight. And I said, well, I'm glad you called because we weren't going to be able to get with you tonight anyway. And, what? Take it away from him. Take it away from him, quick. And about 2 weeks later, the point I want to make here is if you got a good prospect, don't give up on them just because they canceled out on you. About 2 weeks later, I went and I saw this particular person. Never met him before, found out where he worked, went in to his office, and I said, hi, I'm Jim Paullin. And he said, come on in. And I said, what was it that turned you off about getting together with me? Well, he had called the other guy back that gave me the referral and asked him if it was Amway. And he said, yes, it was. And, of course, immediately he called to cancel. Why did he call to cancel? Because he thought he knew what it was and didn't know what it was. And I got with him. I said, what was it that turned you off about Amway? He says, well, I saw that thing once before, number one. Number two, my wife wasn't with me, and she said she wouldn't have been interested. Number three, the products were just like any other products, and anybody could make that kind of stuff, and that's why. And I said, well, let me ask you a question. If we could overcome all three of those problems and you could earn $1,500, $2,000 a month, would it be worth an hour and a half of your time for me to show you how to do it? And he said, you betcha, let's do it. And he came over that night, and we showed him the plan, and they became our first direct distributor. Okay, it's very, very important that you follow through with referrals like that because you never know who they're going to lead you to. Now, another simple reply to any objections, any questions you get, I told you one, it's too involved to go into right now. You can say that with comfort. Anybody in here can learn that. It's too involved to go into right now. It's simple, easy. There's another one that you might like, and that's something like this. This is not the time or place to discuss business. Would you like to get together Thursday night or Saturday night? It's very simple. It's easy. Now, as you go on and get going in your business, you may want to get a little more sophisticated in your answers and all that, and that's okay too. And just to give you some of those ideas, answering questions and objections, one of the best ways is just to answer a question with a question. You've heard that before, haven't you? And you see, what if they say, is this selling? Do you like to sell? No, I really don't care for selling. Well, you're going to love what I got. Do you like to sell? Yeah, I love selling. Well, you're going to love what I got. Either way you go, right? What? Is this Amway? If you're getting that question, you need to work on your invitation with your upline. I don't get it anymore. And the reason is it's an attitude and it's the way we project. And if you're getting that question, then there's something you're saying that's kind of giving it away, or it's the way you're saying something. And I would suggest that you tape record your invitations and listen to them yourself, or let your upline listen to your invitations so you can get that down good. Absolutely, positively, don't answer that question by saying no. That's an outright lie. Don't do it. You can't do it. It's deceitful. Don't ever say no, it's not Amway. You can ask a question. Is it Amway? Why do you ask that? That's simple, right? Why do you ask that? Now, I've heard some people say, you could say, well, what do you know about Amway? Well, that's kind of like saying, yeah, it is, and, tell me what you know. I just assume say, why do you ask that? And then find out what they know. Or you might say this, if you're thinking about getting involved with Amway, we need to get together quick. Or how about this one? Is it Amway? Or really any other question they ask you? Well, competition being what it is today, I'm not going to tell you what my idea is for fear that you might run off and do it with somebody else before we get together. True, right? True statement. Well, what's it all about? Don't say I can't tell you. That's stupid. You just called up to tell him, and then you say I can't tell you. It don't make any sense. Say, I'd love to tell you. Would Thursday night or Saturday night be better? I'd love to tell you. From the beginning to the middle to the end. And then you can make an intelligent decision. Thursday night or Saturday night be better. Give them an alternative choice of getting together with you. Somebody might say, well, I'm not coming unless you tell me what it is. What's the matter? Don't you trust me? Answer a question with a question, right? Or, gosh, I'm sorry to hear that. I thought you trusted me. Take it away from them. Back off. Is there an investment? Are you looking to make an investment? No, I really don't have any money. Well, I'm not looking for investors, as we have 2 wealthy financial backers. Would Thursday night or Saturday night be better to get together? How much time is this going to take? Well, that all depends on your interest level and how ambitious you are. Would Thursday night or Saturday night be better? Keep it simple. You know, it's no big deal. Just get with them. Now, one thing I want to highlight here, absolutely, positively, don't get paranoid if people know you're in the business.